Those talks have intensified this week with Damian Lillard, but there's no trade imminent, and talks and conversations that can change in one moment with one call. They're certainly behaving like a team that wants to get a deal done.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the wait is finally over. Almost. But there seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel in regards to a Damian Lillard trade. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Brings a huge smile to my face. Bam, 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 bam. You guys are making bank on Prize Picks. I absolutely love it. Week 1 was a huge success for a lot of you guys. And we're gonna keep it going, man. Each and every day, I post my picks for free on my Instagram story at TheFlightMike. And we're gonna feature the best slips on this channel each and every week. So submit them to me via Instagram DMs if you want to be featured. And if you haven't started playing Prize Picks, you use my promo code microphone and they'll match your initial deposit when you sign up on Prize Picks. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? It has been a very strange offseason for Damian Lillard. Going into this offseason, Damian Lillard was hoping that the Portland Trail Blazers would be able to use the number 3 overall pick in the NBA draft to somehow improve the roster. Now, it was of my personal opinion that you cannot trade that number 3 overall pick for anyone in the NBA to make the Portland Trail Blazers a contender. You trade him for Giannis Antetokounmpo, I still think you're a 5th or a 4th seed. Trade him for LeBron James, I still think at best you might be a 5th or a 4th seed. You pick any person in the NBA and trade that number 3 overall pick for him, and I feel like still the Portland Trail Blazers would not be able to compete in the Western Conference against the Denver Nuggets, Phoenix Suns, Golden State Warriors, and hell, even the Los Angeles Clippers. Hey, let's throw the Lakers in there as well. The West is very competitive this year, but I'm not here to debate with you guys over hypotheticals, because at the end of the day, the Portland Trail Blazers made their decision. Despite Damian Lillard wanting them to somehow build a contender just by trading the number 3 overall pick, which probably the most likely candidate in that instance would have been Paul George, the Portland Trail Blazers essentially gave Damian Lillard the finger and said, no, we're just going to draft the best player available in the draft, who, by the way, happens to play the same position as you, Scoot Henderson. This caused a huge war between Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers, where Damian Lillard pretty much came out and said,
hey, I was so loyal to you guys. How can you do this to me?
And the Portland Trail Blazers pretty much saying,
it's business, it's not personal.
And I've echoed this in the past. I can understand Damian Lillard's frustration, but there's a reason why contracts in the NBA work the way that they currently are. The whole purpose of giving players supermax contract extensions is to reward them for their loyalty. And Damian Lillard is considered, well, up until this year, he was considered to be one of the most loyal players in NBA history. But the incentive to stay with your existing team and sign a supermax contract extension was far too great for him to overcome. It's far too great for any player to turn down, if we're being honest. The thing is, in years past, you would see players try to have their cake and eat it too, signing a supermax contract extension with their existing team, then demanding a trade. Problem with that is, these players expect to be traded wherever they want to go. But the reality is once you decide to sign for significantly more money, you lose your ability to pick your next team. And oftentimes, even though you do have the freedom to pick your next team, since you're asking for so much money, most teams won't be willing to sign you for that amount. A classic example of this situation is none other than Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is one of the most mesmerizing talents in the NBA, one of the best talents in the NBA. I'll go as far as to say as he is the best number 2 option you could have on a championship caliber team. Now, is he capable of leading his own team to an NBA championship as a number 1? History indicates no, but he's a very, very good number 2 player. In 2019, when he hit free agency, the Brooklyn Nets scooped him up in an instant. But over the past 2 years, Kyrie Irving didn't really have the same market for his services. Last year, when he threatened to opt out of his contract, he realized that there was no team that would be willing to sign him. So he decided to opt back in with the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets traded him to the Dallas Mavericks. And once again, when he was hitting free agency, there were some rumors that the Lakers were going to try to sign him, but alas, it just didn't make a lot of sense. So he decided to settle on a 3-year, $126 million contract with the Dallas Mavericks in a state that's not going to charge him any state income tax. So he could be the number 2 option for the Dallas Mavericks and play with Luka Doncic. Not a really bad scenario, it's just we're far removed from the time where these teams would jump through hula hoops to sign these superstar players to supermax contract extensions or max contract extensions in instances where it doesn't make sense for them. And the same could be said about Damian Lillard in this particular instance. Damian Lillard wanted to have his cake and eat it too. He signed a huge supermax contract extension with the Portland Trail Blazers that would keep him under contract until the 2026 to 2027 season. And bear in mind, once his contract expires next year in the 2024 to 2025 season, which he already opted in, by the way, his supermax contract kicks in where he gets paid approximately $122 million over 2 years. Now, at that point, Dame's going to be 35 and 36 respectively, and he's locked in. There's really nothing he can do. So immediately after the Portland Trail Blazers drafted Scoot Henderson, Damian Lillard just realized that the Portland Trail Blazers were no longer trying to contend for a championship. I know, it's not like you could have seen this coming from 2 years ago. Now here's where he made a mistake. He demanded a trade, but he demanded a trade to the Miami Heat. And that's where the stigma about him kind of got shattered, because it seemed like now that it wasn't convenient for him to be loyal to the Portland Trail Blazers, he was frustrated that the Portland Trail Blazers were going to hold on to him and shop for the best deal possible for their roster and their franchise, which is just business. I mean, with all due respect to Dame, he's easily the best asset that the Portland Trail Blazers have had over the past 15 years minimum. So this brings us to where we currently are. There's a huge standoff between Damian Lillard, the NBA, and the Portland Trail Blazers. At first, there was the NBA coming out and saying,
Dame, you have to report to camp for whatever team that trades for you.
Originally, Damian Lillard said that it's either Miami or he doesn't play. He switched his stance there, but still, his agent made sure that everybody knew that Dame wants to play for the Miami Heat. This definitely made things a little bit more complicated, but the Miami Heat up until this point were the only team that were trying to trade for Damian Lillard. Now things are starting to look a little interesting here. Check this out. About 5 days ago, the Portland Trail Blazers and Miami Heat have made some progress on a potential Damian Lillard trade. Thankfully, the problem is the Miami Heat are notorious for swindling their opposition in these trades. I mean, you never really walk away from a trade with the Miami Heat feeling good about yourself. I mean, remember how they traded for Victor Oladipo and then they signed Victor Oladipo to a minimum contract? I mean, this was a scenario where they finessed the Houston Rockets and Victor Oladipo, because Victor Oladipo wasn't signing a contract extension because he wanted to play for the Miami Heat. He could have got paid a max contract extension. Instead, he went to the Houston Rockets, and from there he went to the Heat, where he currently plays for the veteran minimum. Now, it's important to note that several teams beyond just the Miami Heat have considered trading for Damian Lillard. Okay, this is fantastic because Damian Lillard would definitely play for whatever team that trades for him, right? No, he's standing by that. He won't report to any team but the Miami Heat. It doesn't seem like the NBA is trying to catch him on this either, but we'll still give you some details about this mystery team. According to Mark J. Spears, a mystery Eastern Conference team has held trade talks centered around Damian Lillard. I'm kind of hearing rumors about another Eastern Conference team that I'm not going to throw out there just yet. Now, personally, what do I think this Eastern Conference team can be? In the past, we were thinking maybe it's the Boston Celtics. I don't think the Boston Celtics could afford them. I guess my best guess at this point would either be the New York Knicks or the Philadelphia 76ers, because they currently have a situation with James Harden. If you want us to make a separate video on that, that's a whole other rabbit hole. Let us know in the comment section down below. Now, at a specific point, I feel like these columnists are just throwing teams out there. I mean, Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated came out and said, hey, if they're playing really well, don't be surprised if the Thunder make a run at Damian Lillard. But that's an intra-season trade. We're projecting this to happen before training camp goes down. That being said, it's important to note that Dame only wants to play for the Miami Heat. Damian Lillard is expected to request a trade to the Miami Heat if he gets traded to another team. Bro, if the Miami Heat want to take on this contract so badly, I mean, we're talking about a player that's not even making supermax money until he's 35 and 36. At that point, you're gonna have a fairly old and past his prime Damian Lillard teaming up with the past his prime Jimmy Butler, which, don't get me wrong, they could still be fantastic players when their best years are behind them. If that's what you want to go for, then by all means. But up until this point, this is something that you may have heard many times before. The Portland Trail Blazers aren't really happy about the trade offers they're receiving for Damian Lillard, and this is from teams that aren't the Miami Heat. So it seems like the Miami Heat are giving the best trade offer, and I feel like a lot of teams have in mind what I'm telling you, Damian Lillard is probably going to be the best version of himself for another year, maybe 2 years. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've seen Chris Paul extend and become a very, very productive player throughout his 30s, but it just doesn't excite you to trade for a player that is about to get hit with a supermax contract extension in 2025 to 2026. Now, Dame tried to do some damage control so Blazer fans don't hate him as much. He claimed that drafting Scoot Henderson wasn't a deal breaker for him because, again, that was the best player that was available. And then he also mentioned how he would never join the Golden State Warriors because that would be going too far. He considers Oakland to be his home, but he would rather lose every year before joining Golden State. Possibly a little bit of a dig at Chris Paul. I respect what they've been doing over the last 8-9 years or whatever, and I'm from there, obviously, that's home. But I can't be part of that. It doesn't even make sense. I never do nothing like that. I lose every year before I go. It's just a lot of contradictions in regards to Dame's character. I don't think he's a bad person for demanding a trade to a team where he thinks he can contend. When there were opportunities for him to get traded to the Sixers or the Celtics, he said only Miami. So that's the only thing that kind of rubs me a specific way. Now, according to Brian Windhorst, we will have our answer on a trade before training camp starts, which is very significant because training camp starts on October 2nd. And it seems like there are other teams that can be involved in this particular instance because the Portland Trail Blazers feel the urgency. It's going to be an awkward situation if you keep Dame there with Scoot Henderson, but you can see this is the first time that FLA Sports Buzz have gotten the sense that the Blazers would like to make a deal before camp, which means you can expect a trade to happen before camp on October 2nd. And that's according to multiple sources via Danny Maring. And it's also important to note that the Phoenix Suns have emerged as a dark horse to help facilitate a Damian Lillard trade. Now, it's not just the Phoenix Suns, by the way. Philadelphia, Miami, and Portland, as well as the Toronto Raptors and Chicago Bulls are heating up, and many of them view the Suns as a team that could push a potential blockbuster deal across the finish line. Now, who would the Suns probably trade in this instance? It's a guy that I think for the rest of his life, man, so long if he's in a Suns jersey, will always hear himself in trade rumors, and that's DeAndre Ayton. So according to a Suns beat writer, Gerald Bourget, the Suns could move DeAndre Ayton to the Blazers as part of a 3-team Damian Lillard trade. So a lot of ways that you can go about this. The one thing that kind of makes me scratch my head here is trading DeAndre Ayton at this point is just, to me, I think it's a little bizarre. It's not like there are players out there that you could sign with the salary cap that you free up for moving on from DeAndre Ayton. So there has to be a plethora of nice assets, nice role players that could fit in with the Phoenix Suns that'll add some depth to the Phoenix Suns that would entice them to move on from DeAndre Ayton, because at this point, free agency is a little barren. Most franchises understand what their rosters are going to look like going into the 2023 to 2024 season. So the only way you can improve the Phoenix Suns right now is trading DeAndre Ayton for some good role players in return. But ladies and gentlemen, there is way more. As a matter of fact, this is probably one of my favorite things to cover. The fact that we have two sources that we trust conflicting with one another. The first one being from the Honorable Chris B. Haynes, who says that Portland is not even engaging Miami at this point.
Portland is refusing to talk to Miami. Miami understands that they don't have the assets, but they want to know, involve a third or a fourth team, but communicate with us and let us know what you are looking for. It hasn't gotten to that stage.
Which is significant because that contradicts a lot of what we've heard, and Damian Lillard is quite literally saying that he'll demand a trade off of his existing team if he doesn't get traded to the Miami Heat, which is without a doubt the main reason why Damian Lillard hasn't been traded so far. I mean, could you imagine if Paul George in 2017 said that he would only accept a trade to the Los Angeles Lakers? He would have never gotten traded to the OKC Thunder, and he would never find himself on the Los Angeles Clippers a few years later. Damian Lillard, in essence, is screwing himself over with this policy. Now, even crazier, and this report actually made me want to bang my head against a wall, because here's another very important insider, a man that has never led us astray, a man that is way too tapped into the network and has never ever given us a false report. Well, at least 99% of the time. Adrian Wojnarowski says that there isn't even a trade on the table for Damian Lillard.
Those talks have intensified this week with Damian Lillard, but still, There's no trade imminent.
So wait, hold on, time out. We have two sides here. On one hand, we're hearing that the Portland Trailblazers are really motivated to trade Damian Lillard by the time training camp starts. And all this makes sense. You don't want this level of toxicity in your franchise whenever you have your brand new franchise cornerstone coming in. This is Scoot Henderson's rookie year. And if you guys remember, at this time last year, many analysts and scouts were saying that if Scoot Henderson declared for the NBA draft in any other year, if Victor Wembanyama didn't exist this year, Scoot Henderson would have been the #1 overall pick. Now, obviously with the Charlotte Hornets selecting #2 overall, it made a lot of sense for them to bring in Brandon Miller because it was a better fit. Regardless, we'll see down the line if that was the right call for them. The Portland Trailblazers have the opportunity of a lifetime, moving on from Damian Lillard and bringing in Scoot Henderson. A ceremonial passing of the torch. The young core is in place with Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, and Anthony Simons. And this is a gigantic distraction for the Portland Trailblazers to start the year. So it makes a lot of sense that you want this trade to go down before training camp happens. But according to Adrian Wojnarowski, there isn't even a trade that's on the table right now. And according to Chris B. Haynes, Portland is refusing to talk to Miami, which directly contradicts most of this video where we said that things are heating up between the Miami Heat and the Portland Trailblazers. So at this point, I'm gonna say it's a really confusing situation, and I don't really know who to believe. There are a lot of contenders in the race in terms of assets, but at the same time, this could all just be a gigantic smokescreen by the Portland Trailblazers to push the Miami Heat to give a better offer for Damian Lillard. Remember, not everything you hear in the media is necessarily true. A lot of this could just be smoke and mirrors or a message to opposing executives to light a fire under their so there could be a better deal on the table for Dame. And that's for all of us to decipher. At the end of the day, I think Damian Lillard will be traded within the next 10 days, and we'll keep you guys covered on this channel. Regardless, I'm gonna make sure I have an update for you guys by the time a Damian Lillard trade goes down. We'll be the first to break it, of course, unless if it's from Sunday night to Monday night, because, well, your boy is fasting Yom Kippur. So if you happen to be in my same boat, I wish you the best and good luck on your fast. Now, the Damian Lillard situation has been very hairy so far and a little crazy, but it hasn't been as crazy as the projected #1 overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft at least 3 years ago, potentially not being able to play this year. And we have an update on all of that, on whether or not Mikey Williams will even be able to play for Memphis this year. I'll leave a link to that in the end screen, and I'll see you guys over there. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until that upload.